Ben Brogan, this question that William Hague asked is going to be a question that is going to dog the Prime Minister as he's in America and Latin America. He's there, as he was in Europe yesterday, to gather support for a second fiscal stimulus. The only question that anybody's going to ask him is, why should we go along with that, Prime Minister, when your own governor of the bank is against it?
And he's in an impossible position because whichever way he answers the question, does he support the governor or does he disagree with him, he may get it in the neck. The fact is that the Prime Minister has made a big thing out of creating an international coalition in favour of a big fiscal stimulus. President Obama is very keen on it. The Germans and the French aren't keen at all. And now he's found that the governor has disagreed with him. Of course, if he disagrees with the governor, that will spook the market. Now, you mentioned the potential bond strike this morning. That's potentially very worrying for the government. So the Prime Minister, I think, will all be wanting to be flies on the wall with the Prime Minister at the moment because he must be very angry at the fact that his trip, which was supposed to be the big build-up to next week's summit in London, has been completely kiboshed by the Governor of the Bank of England. And
relations between the Governor and the Prime Minister were not exactly great before the governor's intervention yesterday, were they?
Well, there's been persistent reports that they didn't see eye to eye on a number of issues. For a while, people were trying to suggest that the time it took for the governor to be reconfirmed as governor was related to the fact that the Prime Minister didn't have full confidence in Mr King. A lot of that is behind the scenes, and as you pointed out earlier, what is really striking about this is that normally these kind of disagreements, which do happen between the Governor of the Bank of England and a Prime Minister, are kept to behind the scenes. We don't normally hear about them, and I think it is significant that it is now all out in public.
What did you make of Harriet Harman's performance, Charles Kennedy?
Not good. I mean, she had a pretty sticky wicket, obviously. She had no wicket at all, really, to defend, because there is no government line as far as we can see.
You would have thought that they may have constructed a form of words, though.
Well, I think this is the mistake that...
they could have told Pat McFadden as well before he came on this morning.
Well, they could have, yes, they could have told Vince. They helped us all for this programme, but I think the tone was wrong. The Conservatives gave her a little bit of a window there to, if you're in trouble, you're on the ropes, fall back on the old nostrums. The class war always plays quite well, and there's nothing else to, defend yourself with, and Harriet's quite adept at doing that. And therefore,
it's hard to play the class war if you're the niece of a countess or whatever.
Well, as William rather cleverly pointed out, but the inheritance tax flip-flop at the weekend with the Tories at least gave her something.
Some ammunition.
Something. Mm-hmm. But on the main issue, the one that we're talking about here, the governor and the whole political and financial strategy of the government, as you say, answer there came none. She'd have been better adopting, I think, a less hectoring tone, however, even although she was on the ropes.
There's a bit of argy-bargy in this government now between various parts of it. You've got the Prime Minister and the Governor at loggerheads, and you've got your own department criticising the Treasury and then the Bank of England for not moving quickly enough on some of these schemes. You've fallen apart at the seams.
No, we're not. But I don't think it's a surprise that, in the midst of what is the biggest economic recession the world has faced for a long time, that there's a pretty robust discussion that goes on sometimes.
And some tensions.
These are big questions that governments around the world are facing. How much money should we pump into the government? What is the best course? How much do we cooperate together? These are big questions that governments are facing. What do the voters want from us? I think they want to know that we're doing our best job to try and steer the country through it. So I'm not surprised that the discussion can be robust at times. And the most important thing is that whatever you do is sustainable and affordable in the long term.
But it looks like there was a bit of collateral damage to the case for a second stimulus. Just this morning with this failed bond auction, the government had attempted to sell £1.75 billion of gilts. And it has to do this to raise the debt, to finance the debt that it's now going to rack up. Otherwise, you're not going to have any stimulus at all. You won't even be able to afford the one you've already got. But out of the 1.75, it could only sell 1.627 billion. There was a mini gilt strike. Now, that is sure. Now, it may not be a trend. I understand that. These are long-term gilts, conventional gilts, not index-linked. But even so, that's worrying. If that's a harbinger of things to come, your fiscal stance is destroyed.
Well, these auctions happen from time to time. And of course, we want them to be taken up. So we don't know, as you say, whether what happened this morning is a trend or not. But
First time since 1995.
I think all of this also shows that we should all be careful what we say about the economy too, because markets operate on confidence, and I think that gives everybody a responsibility in this situation too.
How significant do you think this mini gilt strike is this morning, Ben Brogan?
I'm not an economic expert, and I think Pat does have a point that people should be careful about what they pronounce when you're faced with that. But I think it's the sort of thing that will send worries in the Treasury, and the question that will be asked is whether what's happened in the City this morning is a reaction to what the Governor had to say.
Well, the interesting, Charles Kennedy, gilt experts, I'm just reporting from Reuters here, there are people who specialise in this arcane world of gilts and comment on it. They're blaming the auction's failure, they're calling it a failure, on market uncertainty, because the gilts hate this uncertainty created by the Bank of England Governor Mervyn King.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He said that the BOE could scale back its programme of gilt purchases.
Well, that comes as no surprise at all, because when the Governor issues an ex-cathedra pronouncement like this, it is going to, whether it's good times or bad times, and my goodness, it's bad times at the moment, it has an immediate effect on all those operating within the financial markets, the City of London and so on. It just goes like wildfire. And this was a very high profile. This wasn't some tape recorded aside in a private conversation or, a joke that went wrong at an after-dinner speech. This was evidence in front of a House of Commons Select Committee and a House of Lords Select Committee on the same day. Words chosen with care. I'm not surprised.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Ben Brogan, we'll let you go and cover this incipient coup that you seem to think is taking place. It may be, of course, that the lenders are part of this coup, to go on a